Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah.
You know, we love to take these complex topics and really get to the core of what makes them tick.
Absolutely.
And today we're going to be looking at something that's pretty near and dear to my heart, at least.
All right.
The history of video games.
Okay, cool.
Now, you might think you know a bit about it,
Right.
Atari, Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox, all that.
Yeah.
But we're going to go deeper than that.
All right.
We're going to unearth the real foundational moments, the turning points, the technical leaps that made it all happen.
Sounds good.
And, and of course the artistic side,
Yeah.
because video games are more than just lines of code, right?
Of course. Yeah.
It's an entire art form.
Absolutely.
So to guide us on this epic quest,
Okay.
we have with us a true expert in the field, someone who's, I don't know, lived and breathed video games.
Well, I do what I can.
Probably since before some of our listeners were born, I'm guessing.
It's probably true. Yeah.
So welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Really excited to have you here.
Glad to be here.
So when we were putting this together,
Yeah.
We dug through mountains of articles,
Right.
research papers, even some personal notes.
Interesting.
All that to try to paint the most comprehensive picture possible.
Makes sense.
So where do we even begin with something as massive as the history of video games?
Well, I think the best place to start is, like any good origin story, at the very beginning,
Okay.
we need to go back to the 1950s and 60s.
Okay, so like pre-Atari,
Oh, yeah, way before Atari.
Okay.
This is when computer scientists were first, kind of like tinkering with these massive room-sized computers, just kind of...
like the ones you see in old sci-fi movies.
Exactly, those huge, clunky machines.
Okay.
And they started creating these simple games and simulations, really just to see, what these computers could do.
Right, like just testing the limits.
Exactly. It was a time of pure exploration and kind of like pushing the boundaries.
So what were some of these early games like?
Well, one of the very first examples is Birdie the Brain back in 1950.
Birdie the Brain.
Yeah, it was this massive machine that could play a pretty mean game of tic-tac-toe.
No kid.
It was actually built for the Canadian National Exhibition as like a technological showcase.
So not even meant to be like...
No, not really a game in the way we think of them today.
Right.
More of a demonstration of computational power.
Okay.
And then there was Nimrod in 1951.
Nimrod, okay.
Which, is another early computer designed specifically to play the game of Nim.
Interesting.
So you can see they were already kind of obsessed with games, even back then.
Yeah, it seems like that drive to create these interactive experiences, it's kind of ingrained in us, isn't it?
Absolutely. And the technology, even though it was so rudimentary, it allowed them to explore these ideas in ways that, had never been done before.
And these games, I'm assuming they didn't have like fancy graphics or anything, right?
Oh, no, not at all. We're talking very basic visuals, mostly lights and, really simple displays.
Right.
But then you get to 1958 and something really interesting happens.
Okay.
Tennis for Two at Brookhaven National Laboratory.
Tennis for Two.
They actually used an analog computer.
Okay.
And an oscilloscope.
An oscilloscope?
Yeah, the device that displays electrical signals visually.
Right, okay.
To create a playable tennis game.
Wow, that's pretty ingenious, using what they had available.
It really was, and it shows that. The desire to create these interactive experiences was strong enough to overcome any technological limitations.
Yeah, they were really working with what they had, weren't they?
Absolutely, and it paved the way for what came next.
Okay, so what was the next big leap?
Well, the game that's often considered the first, the truly influential video game, is Space War.
Space War, okay.
Created at MIT in 1962.
MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology.
That's right.
Okay.
So picture this. 2 players battling it out in space, controlling their spaceships, which were represented by, just lines and dots on a screen.
So even more basic than Tennis for Two.
In some ways, yes, but the gameplay was more engaging, more interactive.
I see.
And it was one of the first games to be played on a dedicated video display.
Okay, that's a big step.
Huge. It really solidified the idea of interactive digital entertainment.
So Space War, created at MIT, 1962.
You got it.
A landmark moment.
Absolutely. And it actually gained a pretty significant following, at least within academic circles.
Really?
Yeah, the source code was shared among universities that had similar mainframe computers, so it spread pretty rapidly for its time.
So from these early experiments on these massive computers.
It's incredible to think about, right?
Yeah, it is.
That's how it all started.
The seeds of the video game industry as we know it.
Exactly. And who would have thought that those humble beginnings would lead to the global phenomenon we see today?
All right, well, now that we've laid the groundwork with those early pioneers, let's fast forward a decade or so to the 1970s, where things start to take a shape that's a little more familiar to us.
Right. This is when video games really started to move from those academic labs into the consumer market.
Okay, so we're talking about the first home consoles, arcade games.
Exactly. And it all began with a company called Magnavox.
Magnavox, okay.
They released the Magnavox Odyssey in 1972.
1972, the Odyssey.
And this is generally considered to be the very first home video game console.
Wow, so before Atari.
Yeah, a couple of years before the Atari Pong came out.
Interesting.
The Odyssey was pretty basic. It used discrete electronic components, no microchips like we have today.
Okay, so it was kind of like building a game out of individual electronic pieces.
In a way, yeah, it was very hands-on.
Fascinating.
And around the same time, you had the first arcade video games starting to appear.
Okay, like what?
Well, there was Computer Space, which actually predates the Odyssey.
Okay.
And then, of course, you have Pong.
But Pong, yeah, everyone knows Pong.
Exactly. It was a massive hit.
It's so simple, but so addictive.
Right. That simplicity was its genius. It was immediately understandable and fun.
Yeah, you didn't need a manual to figure it out.
No instructions needed. Just pick up the paddles and play.
So Pong really captured the public's imagination.
Oh, absolutely. It was a cultural phenomenon.
But then what happened? I remember hearing about this boom and bust cycle in the early days of video games.
Yeah, that's a great point, and Pong is a perfect example.
Right.
After its success, the market was suddenly flooded with countless Pong clones, everyone trying to cash in.
Oh, so like a bunch of cheap knockoffs.
Pretty much. And the problem was there wasn't much innovation. It was just the same game over and over.
Sure, people got bored.
Quickly, yeah. And that led to a crash.
Hmm.
It showed that the industry needed more than just a popular concept. They needed to keep innovating.
To keep people engaged.
Exactly. And that's a lesson that the industry has had to learn over and over again.
Yeah, it seems like that constant drive to innovate and create new experiences, it's what drives the industry forward.
It's absolutely essential. And that brings us to another important turning point, the introduction of low-cost programmable microprocessors.
Microprocessors, okay.
This happened in the mid-70s, and it was a game changer, literally.
How so?
Well, before microprocessors, games were built using discrete transistor logic, which was, very complex and expensive.
So.
But microprocessors were more versatile and cheaper to produce.
I see.
This opened up a whole new world of possibilities.
Right, because suddenly you could do more with less.
Exactly, and that led to the arrival of the first ROM cartridge-based home consoles.
ROM cartridges, so that's like the...
Yeah, the little cartridges you'd plug into the console.
Right, okay.
And the most famous of these early consoles was the Atari Video Computer System, or VCS.
Ah, the Atari. That brings back memories.
For a lot of people, it was their first experience with home video games, and it was a huge success.
And this was all happening while arcade games were also going through, like a golden age.
Absolutely. The late 70s and early 80s were the golden age of arcade games.
With games like Space Invaders, Pac-Man, Donkey Kong.
All classics. And they weren't just popular, they were cultural phenomena.
Yeah, they were everywhere, even in movies and TV shows.
And what's interesting is that these games started to introduce some basic narrative elements.
Like, what do you mean?
Think about Pac-Man. He's got this unsatiable hunger for pellets. He's being chased by ghosts.
Okay.
Or Donkey Kong kidnapping Pauline.
Right.
These are simple stories, but they add a layer of engagement,
It's not just about moving shapes around anymore.
Exactly. And these early narratives paved the way for the more complex storytelling we see in games today.
So arcades booming, home consoles taking off.
It seemed like the video game industry was unstoppable.
But then, the crash of 1983.
Yeah, that was a major setback.
What happened?
Well, a number of factors contributed to it. You had market saturation with too many low-quality games.
Okay, so like a lack of quality control.
Exactly. And a lot of those games were just quick cash-ins trying to capitalize on the popularity.
And what else?
Well, you also had the rise of personal computers.
PCs.
They were starting to offer a different kind of gaming experience.
Right, and they were becoming more affordable.
And for a lot of people, PCs felt more substantial, more versatile than consoles.
So the video game industry in the U.S. took a pretty big hit.
Yeah, it was a tough time, but it's important to remember that. The crash primarily affected the U.S. market.
Really?
Yeah, Japan's video game industry, actually, weathered the storm relatively well.
Interesting. Why is that?
Well, they had their own unique approach to game development, with a strong emphasis on quality and innovation.
So they weren't putting out as many...
No, they were more focused on creating polished and engaging experiences.
And this put them in a prime position to kind of take over the global market, right?
Exactly, and that's exactly what happened.
Oh.
In 1985, Nintendo released the Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES in the U.S.
The NES, that's a classic.
It was a huge success. It revitalized the U.S. market.
And introduced a whole new generation to iconic characters like Mario and Zelda.
It was a turning point, and it marked the beginning of a new era of console wars.
The console wars, yeah. Those were...
Nintendo versus Sega, it was a battle for supremacy.
And I gotta say, as a kid, I was definitely on the Nintendo side.
Me too. I was all about that NES.
And this was also around the time that handheld gaming started to take off, right?
Absolutely. The late 80s and early 90s saw the emergence of the first major handheld consoles.
Led by the Nintendo Game Boy.
The Game Boy, that little gray brick.
Yeah, it was everywhere.
It was a phenomenon, and it really solidified the idea of gaming on the go.
So we've gone from mainframes to arcades to home consoles and now to handhelds.
And the technology just kept advancing.
Right, and the early 90s were a time of some really significant technological leaps.
Huge leaps. Yeah, this is when we saw the rise of real-time 3D polygonal graphics.
Okay, so explain that to me.
Well, before this, games were mostly 2D. Flat sprites moving around on a screen.
Right.
But with 3D graphics, suddenly games had depth.
Sense of space.
Exactly. It was a huge step forward in terms of immersion and realism.
And this was made possible by advancements in microprocessor technology, right?
Absolutely. Microprocessors were becoming more and more powerful, which allowed for more complex calculations and rendering.
And this wasn't just on PCs.
No, it was happening on consoles, too.
Really?
Yeah, Sony's PlayStation was one of the first consoles to really embrace 3D graphics.
And it was a huge success.
Massive success. It changed the landscape of gaming.
And another major development in the 90s was the introduction of optical media.
CD-ROMs.
Right. So how did that change things?
Well, CD-ROMs offered significantly more storage capacity than traditional cartridges.
Okay, so like a lot more space.
Way more space. We're talking hundreds of times more.
Wow. So what did that mean for games?
It meant that game developers could create much larger and more complex game worlds.
Oh, yeah.
They could include richer narratives, more detailed graphics.
And things like full motion video and pre-rendered cutscenes.
Exactly. It really expanded the possibilities for storytelling and world building.
So CD-ROMs were a big deal.
Huge deal. They were a game changer, no pun intended.
And as the 90s progressed, we saw another technological force entering the gaming world.
The internet.
The internet, yeah. How did that change things?
No, at first it was a gradual evolution. You know, some games started to include online multiplayer elements.
Okay.
But it quickly became clear that the internet had the potential to revolutionize gaming.
And it did.
Yeah, it completely changed how we connect with games and with each other.
So by the end of the 90s, the stage was set for the modern era of gaming with 3D graphics, online multiplayer, and these expansive game worlds.
And as we moved into the 2000s, the industry continued to evolve at a rapid pace.
Right, new consoles, new technologies.
Microsoft entered the market with the Xbox.
The Xbox, yeah.
They were concerned that Sony's PlayStation was becoming more than just a game console.
Right, like a full-fledged entertainment device.
Exactly. So they wanted to get in on the action.
And while Sony and Microsoft were focused on pushing the boundaries of graphical fidelity...
You had Nintendo doing their own thing.
With the Wii.
The Wii, yeah, they've focused on innovative gameplay with motion sensing controls.
And they weren't necessarily concerned with having the most powerful hardware.
No, they were more interested in attracting a wider audience.
And it worked.
Oh, it worked brilliantly. The Wii was a massive hit.
It brought in a whole new demographic of players.
People who had never considered themselves gamers.
And Nintendo has continued this approach with the Switch, which is a really interesting hybrid console.
Yeah, it's both a home console and a handheld. A really clever concept.
So you see, the industry is constantly evolving, constantly innovating.
And that's what keeps it exciting.
And speaking of evolution, let's talk about how the gaming landscape itself has shifted.
Yeah, the rise of mobile gaming has been huge.
Huge, yeah. With smartphones and tablets.
Suddenly, everyone had a gaming device in their pocket.
And that led to the growth of casual gaming.
A whole new market with games designed for short bursts of play, on the go.
And we've also seen a change in how games are monetized, haven't we?
Oh yeah, the traditional model of paying for a game up front has been largely replaced by free-to-play, freemium, and subscription-based games.
So it's become more about ongoing engagement and microtransactions.
In a lot of cases, yes.
And this shift has also led to a boom in indie game development.
Absolutely. It's become easier for smaller, independent teams to create and distribute games.
And we've seen some really innovative and creative games come out of the indie scene.
Some of the most interesting games I've played have been from indie developers.
So we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah, we've seen the evolution of technology, gameplay, the market itself.
But let's not forget about the artistic side of video games.
Right, because games are more than just lines of code and pixels on a screen.
They're an art form.
Absolutely, and we can see that even in those early arcade games.
Like Pac-Man and Donkey Kong?
Yeah, they might have had simple graphics and gameplay, but they had character, they had a certain charm.
And as technology advanced, games became more visually sophisticated.
The introduction of CD-ROMs allowed for more detailed graphics, cutscenes, and full-motion video.
So the storytelling potential of games really expanded.
It really did, and we saw games like Final Fantasy VII and Sega's Shenmue pushing the boundaries.
And let's not forget about the music.
The audio landscape of games has evolved just as much as
the visuals,
from the chiptunes of early arcade games
to the orchestral scores of modern blockbusters.
And we've seen the rise of music games
like Guitar Hero and Rock Band, which brought a whole new level of musical engagement to gaming.
And then you have the world of mods, user-created modifications.
Right, where players can actually change and expand upon existing games.
It's a testament to the creativity of the gaming community.
And it speaks to the idea that games are not just static pieces of entertainment.
They can be dynamic and evolving.
And they can be a platform for artistic expression.
Absolutely.
Now, one aspect of gaming that we wanted to touch on is LGBT representation.
Okay.
And I know our sources don't provide a detailed history of this specific topic.
Right.
But it's something that's become increasingly important in recent years.
And rightfully so.
So as games become more narratively complex, do you think that's created more opportunities for diverse representation in general?
I think it's safe to say that. As games have matured, they've become more inclusive in terms of the stories they tell and the characters they portray.
And the rise of indie game development probably played a role in that as well, right?
Right. Oh, absolutely. Indie developers often have more creative freedom to explore different perspectives and themes.
So while we don't have specific details on the history of LGBT representation in games, it's definitely something that's evolved alongside the medium itself.
And it's an area that deserves further exploration.
All right, well, as we wrap up this deep dive, it's clear that the history of video games is a story of constant innovation and evolution.
It's a testament to human creativity and ingenuity.
From those early experiments on mainframe computers
to the immersive, interconnected worlds we have today.
We've seen the technology evolve,
the gameplay change, the market expand.
And we've seen games themselves become a recognized art form.
With the power to tell compelling stories, to create unforgettable experiences.
And to connect people from all over the world.
Absolutely.
So as we look to the future of gaming,
yeah,
what new possibilities do you think are on the horizon?
Oh, it's an exciting time to be a gamer. We're seeing advancements in VR and AR, cloud gaming is becoming more accessible, and the lines between games and other forms of entertainment are blurring more than ever.
It feels like we're on the cusp of another major leap forward.
I think so too, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for this incredible medium.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your insights on this fascinating journey.
It's been a pleasure.
And to all of you listening, thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We hope you've enjoyed exploring the history of video games.
Until next time.
Keep on gaming.